Hey guys, welcome back to the Mr. Fix-It channel. On this episode, I'm going to show you how to put a starter clutch in a 400EX. Stay tuned. So the first thing, I'm going to show you what the starter clutch is doing. So when you hit the starter, let's get a good example of it. Alright, so you can see how sometimes it starts and sometimes you just hear it spin, like the starter just spin and nothing happens. That's your starter clutch. It's also known as the one-way bearing. It's also known as a sprag. So it's inside this cover here, so I got to pop off this cover and then take the flywheel out. Unfortunately, on this quad here, the shifter's welded on. So maybe I can just bend this out a little bit and sneak this off of here. But probably going to have to cut this weld off, and I won't be going in here and replacing this shifter shaft today. I'm just going to focus on the starter clutch. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt this quad up on one side to minimize the oil leakage. Alright, so the first thing I would tell you to do is to unbolt your shifter, but since this one's welded on, I'm just going to try to bend it out of the way here a little bit. That should be enough room. Back to neutral. So there's all different length bolts in this cover. So if you want to, get your piece of cardboard and poke some holes in it in the shape of this cover and put your screws in there. That way you know where they go back in. I'm not worried about that, so I'm just going to pull these out. I'm going to use this pry bar here and try to break the seal on this. Alright, so this is going to be held in with some magnetism. Just walk it off. There's some alignment pins in here. I'm just going to let that rest right there. I don't have to unplug anything. I'm going to go ahead and pull the starter gears out. I got to get that bolt out. 17mm. Okay, here you do need a special tool. This is a Motion Pro flywheel puller. The numbers are pretty hard to see. I'll put a link to this down in the description. This is what it looks like. You just thread this in here. Okay, now you got your flywheel out of the way. Well, of course now it's going to rain. So once you got your flywheel off, your starter sprag, one-way clutch, one-way bearing, starter clutch, whatever you want to call this. It all has different names. Everybody calls it something different. This is where it lives. Now, putting this thing back in is pretty easy. You got to take these bolts out here, and then this whole piece comes off. Now, this big gear here, this is the other part that bearing rides on. So you want to check this surface right here for any galling or marks. This one's definitely seen better days. You can buy both these pieces together. But I think I'm going to let this one ride the way it is and just replace that starter clutch. I'm going to have a quick look here and see if my part's the right one. So it comes with bolts. Looks like the right part. Okay, so one thing you got to watch out is this bearing will come out of the back here. And if you put this in backwards, you'll have to take it back apart and flip it over. So don't put it in backwards. I'll show you how to make sure it's right. Alright, so you can get these out. You can use your impact. If you don't have an impact, you can get a big wrench. This happens to be a 5/16 that fits on there. I'm sure a metric version would probably fit a little tighter. These hex Allen cap screws in here are 6mm. So I'm using this 6mm drive for a 3/8 ratchet to loosen these. Alright, so here's how you're pretty sure you know that your starter clutch is bad. It just comes out in pieces. And they're all chewed up. So this is no good. So I'll get this cleaned up real good here. A lot of chewy bits down in here, and this is all magnetized too, so it's kind of a pain. I'm going to use the air, compressed air. Okay, so this bearing is captive in here. So on this side there's like a lip, okay, and on the other side there isn't, so it only goes in one way. That goes through the back, and then it goes on like this. So if you've left this out and put this on and drop it in there, that's wrong. So you want to make sure you get it like this. It did come with new fasteners. I'm going to go ahead and start one of these in here. Okay, and I'm going to put the other ones in, but I'm going to put Loctite on them. And pull this one back out and Loctite it too. Now I'll just torque them to spec. I'm going to go in a crisscrossing pattern. Alright, now make sure everything's clean and this thing is ready to go back on. Okay, just in case you don't understand exactly what's going on here, is you have this gear and you have this bearing and they seat together. Like this. So it'll only spin one way. Like it locks up when you try to spin it the other way. This is the one-way clutch. Line your key way up with your key. There's a washer that goes in between here. Okay, just as a demonstration here, to show you how this works. So these gears stay meshed with the starter all the time. The starter doesn't disengage like it does in a car. So what happens is when the starter engages, it rolls the engine forward with that clutch. Okay, and then once the engine starts, now that clutch can spin free. That's what this gear is for. So you see if I turn the starter, how it turns the engine and that gear. But as soon as the engine starts, that gear free spins. And everyone's favorite part comes next, and that's scraping all these gaskets. I like to grease this gasket, so the next time I go take this off, it should come off and stay on this cover, and I can reuse it and just pop the cover back on. I'm going to hold on to the flywheel with this wrench. I'm going to torque this down to 94 foot-pounds. Alright, let's see how she sounds now. Sounds a lot better. Yep, that's all there is to the starter clutch on the 400EX. You need that one special tool and the rest of it's all pretty easy. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.